Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on Thursday, October 1st, 2020. Holy Mackinac, it's October already. Where is this horrible year going? I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, as always, on Tuesdays and Thursdays on the live stream is Sheila, the She-Devil Gun Reid. How you doing out there in Northern Alberta, Sheila?
That She-Devil nickname is sticking, isn't it? You're just going to make it stick, whether I like it or not.
Well, you know what? Every nickname, including mine, there's a natural progression. First of all, you hate it. Then, you know, when it doesn't go away, you accept it. And then the third stage is you embrace it. So you're going to be signing off within the next few months with... This is Sheila, the She-Devil Gun Reid. You mark my words.
I think I'm still in the denial phase of whatever's happening right now. Speaking of whatever's happening right now, I think I should tell everybody what we're doing here today.
Yes.
This is the Rebel News daily live stream. It used to just be on Fridays, but during the pandemic, even though the mainstream media says, well, there's no local news, we think there's more news than ever. So instead of just 1 hour of live stream a week on Fridays, we've expanded it to every weekday. Ezra hosts Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But since Ezra is the boss of Canada's largest independent news company, David and I fill in on Tuesdays and Thursdays and some other times too. So the boss can get, you know, like his real job done. And it gives us a chance to interact with each other. We talk about the news of the day, and sometimes not even news. Sometimes it's wrestling. Sometimes it's old cars. Sometimes it's David's electrical car, whatever.
Plug-in hybrid.
Egg beater with seats, okay? And it also gives our viewers a chance to interact with each other in the live chat. It's very lively. Since the beginning of the pandemic, there are a lot more people tuning in, and there are a lot more people getting to know each other in the live chat. It's very interesting. If you go back and read the live chat, friendships are forming, business deals are being made. It's kind of fun to see the community that's built around the Rebel News daily live stream, but it also gives our viewers at home a chance to support the work that we do and kind of direct the direction of the show. You can do something called a super chat. It's at the bottom of the live chat. You can click the little $ there. You can select an amount of money to donate to us here at Rebel News. YouTube takes some. It's their platform. I get it. But we get the bulk of the money. And the more money you give, the more characters you'll get. And what that will do is highlight your super chat, is what it's called. It'll pin it to the top of the screen so everybody can see it, whether they're watching live or watching later. And David and I will read your comment, do our best to answer your question. Maybe there's something you want to put on our radar, a topic you want discussed. Now's your chance. You can support us, and you get a chance to sort of be part of the democracy of our live stream because you're kind of in charge too.
And you know what? My first challenge to all our super chatters, Sheila, as you just heard a few moments ago, Sheila's not 100% sold on that nickname, She-Devil. So if you have an idea for a nickname for Sheila, what would it be? Send that in. And by the way, you know, don't be naughty about it either, okay? Yeah, I'm talking about a nice nickname that the lovely Sheila Gun Reid would embrace and adore. In any event, let's move on to the news of the day. And I said off the top, Sheila, this is October 1st. That means it's Chinese National Day, their national day of the Communist Party coming into power way back when. And my question to you is, do you plan to raise a flag of Communist China like they were about to do on the lawns of Queen's Park yesterday, Sheila?
You know, what a crazy story. What a crazy excuse they gave. The whole thing is an absolute nightmare. You know, the idea that any Canadian municipality, provincial government, the federal government, that any Canadian politician would go anywhere near one of these ridiculous communist flag-raising ceremonies. What these things are are Chinese colonialism. That's what it is. They should be isolated and maligned by the rest of the world for, let's not even consider, the century of bloodshed, the millions of people dead, the Uyghurs, the millions of Uyghurs that are locked in concentration camps, in forced labor camps, the Uyghur kids that are being sent to residential schools who are having their names changed so that they don't know about their heritage, their families, they're having their Muslim names taken away from them. Their organs are harvested. Let's just put that aside for a minute, even though, I can't even believe that we're putting that aside. I mean, that's reason enough. But just more affecting Canadians directly. They unleashed a pandemic on the world and lied about it so that we didn't know the extent of it, how bad it was, how it was spread, when I'm pretty sure they knew these things already since they had it long before us. The uncertainty prompted Canadian officials to overreact, shut down our economies, and now we have a debt that's over $1 trillion, the biggest contraction in our economy since ever. 1 in 4 people in Alberta for a time were on government assistance. I mean, it's just atrocious. They did that to us with their lives. And then secondarily, the 2 Michaels that have been kidnapped. I mean, it's just ridiculous that any Canadian politician would participate in any of this, yet somehow they find a way.
Incredible. For all the reasons you just outlined, we should never have been having these flag-raising ceremonies for this odious nation. And by the way, when I say odious, I don't mean the people of China, folks. They're the biggest victims of the Mandarins in Beijing. But in 2020, with the trillions of dollars of economic damage to the world over, somebody thought this was a good idea. Well, anyway, Sheila, I did go down to Queen's Park yesterday. At the 11th hour, the flag raising, thank goodness, was canceled. There was a small group of protesters. By the way, no media, not a single reporter there. Yeah, the protest was small, but what they were protesting was very big indeed. And how about we run some of that footage and we'll come back with more discussion on this. I assume you were here to protest the flying of the flag of the People's Republic of China, which was canceled at the last minute. What was the government thinking in doing such a thing in the first place?
Exactly. That's why, because we have been trying to contact the government, especially Doug Ford, and to ask him what's going on here. We want to know whether the flag of the CCP will raise today, but nobody gave us an answer. And with all the things happening, like the COVID-19, and then the Michaels that we, are being detained in China, they really should not allow this flag raised in the Canada soil.
I assume millions of Canadians and others agree with that sentiment, ma'am. And I'm just curious, what do you think about their excuse for why they canceled it? It's because of COVID-19 safety precautions, which not only cancels the raising of this flag, but any other flag for the rest of the year.
Oh, that's the lamest excuse that I ever heard. It's like the COVID just started yesterday. You know what I mean?
And I guess that is a pattern of abuse and bullying when it comes to China. Your sign has Tibet, the Uyghurs, Hong Kong, now the world, and a trail of blood behind the Grim Reaper in a CCP a costume. So I imagine this is a regime that really doesn't follow international law. It doesn't believe in human rights. Why in the province of Ontario, in our democracy of Canada, were we going to fly a flag for the nation of China here?
I think, China is a bully. And I don't understand why we should allow the China flag to fly over the building of Canadian. Because it really an insult to the people, to us. And especially, I am a Vietnamese refugee. I escaped Vietnam because the communists. And here, we are in a freedom country, and we allow the communist flag to be raised here. That should not have been allowed for that at all.
5 years ago in this city, Justin Trudeau, before he became prime minister, he said China is the basic kind of dictatorship that he admires. How do you make sense of that? A prime minister of a democracy saying that he admires the dictatorship in China?
That is an insult to a lot of us who immigrated to Canada to escape from the communist regime, from a dictatorship regime. Not only Vietnam, but many different countries. And for him to say that, it is a real insult. I don't know what he's thinking. Who knows what is under the table? We don't know. All I can say is that as a prime minister, to say something like that is not supported by any type of different people in the world.
Yeah, it was shocking. And of course, Sheila, the province of Ontario is not the federal government, and Doug Ford is not Justin Trudeau. But where is Doug Ford on this file? He was hiding behind the skirt of his media spokeswoman. They put out some mealy-mouthed statement. Yeah. It was like a 2-week-old oatmeal. Rick Nichols, the deputy speaker, he was scheduled to make remarks at the flag raising. What was he going to say? This is staggering. And I should point out, folks, the reason why this is so important, the flag was only going to go up, I believe, for an hour. It was just a symbolic thing. But that's all the Beijing mandarins need is 1 hour for the photographers to click their flag in front of the legislature of a Western democracy, because the way they spin this is propaganda. You see, we have the good housekeeping seal of approval. A democracy like Canada and Ontario, they recognize us as honored guests, a favored nation. We're right on the legislature, and 100 meters down from that flagpole, Sheila, and this was what has me steaming, is the statue of Sir John A. Macdonald, which is still entombed in a wooden coffin with what appears to be a garbage bag around his head, because we don't want to trigger the protesters of Black Lives Matter. We don't want to have the statue smeared in that vulgar pink paint again. So in order not to trigger the racial social justice warriors, we will prevent everybody in the province from gazing upon Sir John A. Macdonald. And at the same time, a football field away, we were going to raise the flag of China. What is this, the Twilight Zone? Where's Rod Serling narrating? That's what I got to ask.
So much bending a knee to communists. That's what's happening. That's why John A. Macdonald's face is covered, and that's why that flag was going to go up until they found the escape hatch and said, oh, no, it's COVID. I would have been less outraged if they had said, whoa, we were out of control there. We almost honored the communist regime that is stripping rights and freedoms away from our Commonwealth brothers in Hong Kong right now. What were we thinking? If they had said that, I would be less outraged than I am right now that this very nearly happened in Doug Ford's Ontario. They like to say the flag rising, it's supposed to be nonpartisan, but standing up to China and everything that they've done in the past and continue to do today, and giving them a public relations win should have been something that is nonpartisan. We can all agree that shouldn't happen. I mean, this is truly, truly outrageous, and I'll tell you why. No mainstream media were there to talk to those anti-CCP protesters. They don't fit the narrative. Those are recent immigrants to Canada. Those are escapees of communism. Those are Chinese immigrants that fled to Canada to freedom because of the CCP. The mainstream media can't be down there covering those people. They'd bust a narrative.
And, Sheila, what is so appalling about the cancellation and so cowardly is, first of all, I don't believe for a second that because of the Wuhan virus, having a flag-raising ceremony outdoor on the acres of Queen's Park was in any way a safety problem. But the fact that it's almost as though to make sure that the Ford PCs don't somehow offend communist China. It's not just your flag, folks. It's all flags going forward. That's the new policy as of yesterday. No more flags going up due to safety, due to the COVID-19 virus. Are you buying this, Sheila? Is anyone buying this?
Absolutely not. That's the dumbest excuse I've ever heard. You're standing outside. If you could sit in that legislature and stand 6 feet apart and social distance, surely you can stand outside and be 6 feet apart and social distance. There's no reason why everybody else who wants to raise a flag for their particular cause or organization or why Commonwealth countries can't raise a flag to honor their days, because Doug Ford very nearly raised a flag to communist China to honor the founding of the bloodiest regime in probably world history.
Yeah. And, you know, the other thing, Sheila, it wasn't in that clip, but it is in the video. I was able to have a brief interview with MPP Paul Calandra. He's part of the Doug Ford PC government. And basically, Mr. Calandra was kind of blaming this on a tradition that goes back to the Liberal government. Well, Mr. Calandra, buy a calendar because it's not 2018 anymore, and 2020 is radically different than 2018, given the virus, given the incarceration and torture of Canadian citizens, the two Michaels there. So this idea that it was the Win Liberals, it was something we inherited from them, Doug Ford, all he had to do was write an order paper. It's over. The fact that this was just hours away from happening until there was the proverbial shite storm by those who actually care about things like, democracy and human rights. It is baffling to me. Doug Ford, if you're watching, what were you thinking?
Yeah. I mean, imagine being the families of the two Michaels and seeing that. What a slap in their face.
Oh.
It's not bad enough that Justin Trudeau is doing nothing to help them. That, the only person really speaking out on their behalf is Mike Pompeo in the United States and us here at Rebel News. But imagine after their family members are kidnapped, incarcerated, 660 some odd days. We're coming up on 2 years. We don't even really know the condition that they're in. I don't know if anybody's seen proof of life lately of them.
Yeah.
And to see the Canada's most populous, largest province very nearly honor their captors. It's revolting. And by the way, if people want to help us raise the profile of what's happening to Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig in communist China. They were arrested in retaliation to Canada simply honoring a treaty that we have with the United States and arresting the Huawei CFO for alleged crimes that she has committed against the United States. You can go to freethetwomichaels.com. We've hired a lawyer to draft a human rights complaint to the UN High Commissioner on Human Rights, which will force an investigation. We'll go to Geneva to make sure that that's done. Because what else can we do? What else can we do? It's really our only opportunity to raise their profile in an international way and maybe force China to do the right thing and just let them go.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something? And I went to Meng's mansion, the Huawei executive, last year, Sheila, and it is a mansion
it is.
in Vancouver. I believe she's even allowed to go on shopping sprees with the ankle bracelet.
Yeah.
They've got security there, not to torture her, of course, but to prevent her from being asked any impolite questions. Meanwhile, these two gentlemen, we understand, are being tortured. And when I say torture, as I understand it, Sheila, there are lights on in their cells 24/7. Oh yeah, that is a form of torture, folks. I fear, Sheila, and it's been 662 days, although I doubt Justin Trudeau is counting them down. I fear in my heart that when these two individuals are released, they are going to be damaged human beings. I can't imagine being incarcerated like that for 6 days, let alone 662 days. This is heartbreaking, and there's absolutely no leadership coming out of Ottawa on this, and yet we have cities and provinces raising the flag of this odious regime. You're absolutely right, Sheila. To the family of the two Michaels, this is the worst slap in the face that they could ever endure.
And as you were speaking there about their incarceration, it occurred to me that whatever is happening to these two innocent men, these men caught up in Justin Trudeau's incompetence and China's evil, whatever's happening to them in that dark, dank Chinese prison, I guarantee you it is much worse than anything that ever happened to Omar Khadr. And Omar Khadr was a guilty man.
Yeah.
Who he blinded a Green Beret, killed a U.S. Army medic. He did that. He admitted to it. He did it. And Canada paid him $10.5 million for the discomfort. He was never tortured. For the discomfort that he felt when he was in Gitmo as a guilty man. So think about that.
Yeah.
Think about how Canada treated Omar Khadr versus what Justin Trudeau hasn't done to help these two innocent men.
And Sheila, just one last PS on this sordid story. Right after we're off the air, I'm whipping down to 240 St. George Street in Toronto. That's where there's going to be a protest outside the Chinese consulate. And when I was speaking to those protesters, originally the plan was to assemble on the lawns of Queen's Park at 2 o'clock today and march to the Chinese consulate. It's not very far away from Queen's Park. And one of the protesters said a police officer, I'm not sure if it was Toronto Police Service or Queen's Park Security, because Queen's Park has their own police, told them that you are not allowed to assemble here tomorrow. All of Queen's Park is completely booked. That was the word, booked. I mean, we're talking about dozens and dozens of acres of lawns at Queen's Park, folks. And they said you're not allowed to. So I thought, where the hell am I? Downtown Toronto or downtown Beijing?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, booked? You don't need a permit to show up at Queen's Park. As the name implies, this is the Park of the Queen for her subjects. It is quite literally the town square. And here we go again with this crap that we endured back in June at Nathan Phillips Square, with the authorities saying, oh, no, you can't practice journalism here. You're offending the illegal squatters, the violent thugs that have taken over the public square. It is absolutely shameful. I made her the offer. I said, if you guys assemble here, if you're fined or worse, we will go to bat for you. We will, take on your case. This will be our latest fight the fines case, Sheila. But they are going to obey what the authorities are saying. And I say shame on whichever member of law enforcement told those peaceful protesters that you ought to be ashamed of yourself. This is not North Korea. We do have the right for assembly and speech and freedom of the press. And Queen's Park, I'm not talking about indoors at the legislature. I understand that's closed off. But outdoors, that is quite literally the public square. And to come down on this woman as though she were still living in communist China is absolutely shameful, Sheila.
And let me tell you, if BLM wanted to use the lawn, they'd let them.
Oh, yeah.
But they're cracking down on the protests of Chinese freedom protesters the same way they would do it in Hong Kong.
Yep.
Oh, you just can't protest here. That's what they tell you in Hong Kong.
Yep.
And if you do it, then you get arrested. But I mean, it goes to show the character of the people who are trying to protest for freedom, for upholding Canadian law, that they would agree to follow the directions of law enforcement and then just go down the street. It speaks to the kind of people that they are.
On two levels, Sheila, I might add.
Yeah.
A, what you're saying, they are law-abiding citizens. And B, they know how it works back home.
Yep.
You're going to get your head cracked open with a billy club and thrown in a prison cell. And don't doubt for a moment those fears of what they've seen in their home countries. That's what they're worried about happening here, because it's a different kind of law enforcement in communist regimes, as we well know.
You know, in a different reality, I would expect to see our conservative politicians joining them on Queen's Park and marching down the street.
Bingo.
To show support for the two Michaels, not cracking down on their protests or offering to raise the flag of communist China. It's very bizarre. We should get to these super chats, though, because they're starting to pile up, and I'm surprised that Justin didn't whisper in my ear and get to the super chat, but I'll do that.
Well, he said we were on a good roll, Sheila, and also I believe it's today in Toronto. What takes effect is the lowered volume legislation for restaurants and bars. It's so that people won't speak above the music, and therefore they'll speak moistly and spread the Wuhan virus. So I think that's why Justin is lowering the whispering to a point where you can't even hear it anymore.
Isn't it crazy? Like the virus, if the background noise is over a certain decibel, you're going to get the virus and die. If you are out past 10 p.m., dead. Virus kills you dead. It's not like age and pre-existing conditions. This virus gets you according to time and background noise. It's a very intelligent virus. Let's get to these super chats. I'm going to get in front of myself here because I'm going to be squinting something terrible. Proud Boys Calgary gives us $6.99. Proud Boys Calgary standing by at proudboyscanada.com. Join us. Dog-faced pony soldiers need not apply. That's very funny. Proud Boys Calgary also gives us $6.99. Trump under fire for not condemning us. What's there to condemn? We did nothing wrong. Yeah, I like how you guys are a bunch of white supremacists and bigots and homophobes with your gay leaders and your the black and people of color, to use the language of the left, leadership that you have in your organization. Why would Trump condemn you? You're not the one burning down communities. Antifa is just an idea. But for
Sheila,
some reason Trump's got to condemn you guys.
Yeah, and those are peaceful burning downs of communities.
Mostly
Don't forget.
Peaceful. Mostly peaceful. I noticed today we'll have an article up on the website, and it might be even up already, that the Associated Press Style Guide is encouraging their writers to not use the word riots because of the connotations, and it doesn't fairly describe the social reasons for the riots and the burning down of communities. Yeah, they're not riots. If it's Black Lives Matter or Antifa, it's supposed to be called unrest now, just unrest. You're restless. You're just restlessly burning down that small business, and you're just restlessly attacking that old lady as she crosses the street, and you're just restlessly putting a bike lock in a sock and hitting someone over the head. You're just restless. It's like restless leg syndrome, but with riots.
Again, it's more of 1984 coming true, isn't it, Sheila? Because a big part of that book is how the totalitarian governments would use language to basically describe the opposite. So the Ministry of Love is the last place you ever want to be summoned to in 1984, because that's actually the Ministry of Torture. But it's very funny, Sheila. I remember post 9/11, in the months after that, there was a fascinating article I wrote, and it was looking at the media coverage of 9/11 and how the hijackers were described. And of course, the most prevalent term used for the hijackers, because this is what they were, was terrorists. And then when you get to more sympathetic regimes, the word being used was militants. So you see, terrorists is being watered down somewhat. And I believe it was the Pakistan Times that had the most watered down term for the 9/11 terrorists, Sheila. They were referred to as Protesters. Yeah, that's right. When I'm doing a protest, I'm going to hijack a 747 and fly it into a skyscraper. This is the same kind of crap you see right now with this style guide for journalists.
You just made me think of something, but I can't find it off the top of my head because I didn't think we were going to talk about it. But I think it was the Calgary Herald, maybe it was the Edmonton Journal. It was just a couple of days ago, and Jess and I tweeted it, but I tweet a lot, so good luck trying to find it. They said something, they were just describing a suspect. I think he was a robber. And they basically they said he's like white, maybe 5'10" to 6 feet, thin build, wearing a sweatshirt. And then they actually drew a picture of him, like the artist rendering of him. And it was a guy wearing a mask. So he had like a baseball cap and like a mask. And it's like, so he's average height, average build, wearing something innocuous, and he's wearing a mask. Good luck catching the guy. Like, I can't even believe they wasted time doing an artist's rendering of the guy. I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, basically it looks like everybody else at the mall right now.
Yeah, like everybody at Walmart. Or at least 50% of them. Let's keep going. MVP gives us $5 Australian. Do you guys get peeved at American Liberals threatening to move to Canada every 4 years? Not really. I think it's kind of laughable because they never actually do. Miley Cyrus, wasn't she supposed to already be Vancouverite by now? I mean, they all want to move to Canada until they're like, oh, that's my tax bill? No, it's fine. I'll stay where I'm at.
Yeah.
It's an empty threat.
And they all want to move to Canada until they realize, oh, but does that mean I have to give up my $17 million Beverly Hills mansion and my Malibu beach house? No, I think I'll endure the hardship in the United States of America.
Yeah, they're the most mobile people on the planet. If they were going to move to Canada, they could do it. They never do. It's just empty threats year after year after year. And I think a lot of it has to do with they like their wealth. Even though they want David and I to share our wealth with people, they really don't want to share their wealth. And so there's a tax benefit for them living and working in the States that it's just much more expensive to be a high income earner and live and work here in Canada. They're not coming. They're greedy. They want everybody else to share their wealth. They don't want to share their wealth.
Yeah, and there's this other little thing called the weather.
That too. We don't get a lot of Hollywood celebrities threatening to relocate to Edmonton. Lisa Proust gives us $2. She says she's very concerned about Quebec this morning. Yes. Yeah. Police in Quebec given a telewarrant system to enforce new lockdown orders. 3 Quebec regions face partial lockdown measures starting today after reaching the highest COVID alert level earlier this week. People living in the greater Montreal, Quebec City, and an impronounceable Quebec name region south of the provincial capital will live with the new restrictions for at least 28 days. Holy cow! As the province tries to get COVID-19 cases under control. Quebec police will be able to obtain telewarrants permitting them to enter people's homes to enforce lockdown orders that enter into effect Thursday. My God. Oh, boy. My God.
Sheila, what is our colleague Yankee going to do? I mean, he's going to have to remain in his room on his computer all day. Well, I guess it's situation normal. But anyways, those are pretty bad shutdowns. Right?
Night and day, he'll just post in the Slack channel interesting things he finds on the internet like he already does.
Forgot about that.
Also, ladies, still single. He's locked down and lonely. Please send your applications to Sheila@rebelnews.com if you're interested in me brokering an introduction to my friend Yankee.
Didn't we get a hot lead the other day, Sheila? Didn't you pass on one to him? Did anything come of that?
We have gotten a couple. We've gotten a couple, but, we're still in the process of accepting applications and screening applications. But yeah, we might have to go in and extract Yankee. I can't believe this. How are these businesses going to stay open? This is just, it's going to be a wasteland there. Anyone in the red zone regions hosting a private gathering of people from different addresses is liable for a $1,000 fine.
Wow. All I can say is somewhere in Brampton, Mayor Patrick Brown is salivating.
Outdoor gatherings are forbidden, masks are mandatory for demonstrations, and police have the power to hand out hefty fines for people who flout the rules.
Well, wait a minute. Why?
This is crazy.
See, again, here's the dichotomy of these rules. You just said outdoor gatherings are prohibited, but if you have a protest, which is an outdoor gathering, that's okay as long as you mask up. But a wedding, I presume a game of baseball, what have you, that's not
Burying your dead.
Pardon me?
Burying your dead.
Yeah.
Like you can't even have a funeral.
Because I guess, Sheila, the Wuhan virus is very socially aware, and it would realize that, say, a Black Lives Matter protest, well, that's for a good cause. We dare not infect anyone there. But if someone's getting married, well, it's open season. This doesn't make any sense.
No. And it's, look, at least I do. I kind of look down my nose at what's happening in Australia, in that I think their politicians are absolutely insane. But Quebec has just put 5 million people on lockdown. 5 million. What is that? 1/7 of Canada's population is in the red zone, currently being locked down. It's insane. It's insane. I can't even believe that this is happening in what I thought was a free country.
What's your prediction, Sheila, in terms of how Quebecers are going to react to this? There's been some huge demonstrations in Quebec in recent weeks. Are they going to kowtow to this, given the heft of the fine, or is it just going to embolden more people to get out on the streets and say, stop it, you are economically killing me, I can't make a living, I'm depressed, et cetera, all these other horrible side effects that we've seen thanks to these lockdowns, Sheila? What do you think is going to happen?
I think given the fact that literally the only thing that you're still allowed to do is attend a demonstration, I think it's only going to get worse. People are going to do a demonstration just for the outing, I think, at this point. I think it's going to get worse. You cannot keep people under lockdown for 28 days. Innocent people who aren't sick, you can't lock them down. That's not how a quarantine works. You lock down the sick. You don't quarantine the healthy. I worry that this is going to erupt.
You know what? I was going to say I'm not trying to give anyone ideas, but let's be honest. I am trying to give somebody an idea. How about this? Why don't maybe 40 Quebecers get together, go to the soccer field, have a game of soccer. Half wears BLM shirts black on white. The other half wears BLM shirts white on black. And what looks like a soccer game is actually a BLM protest. I guess that would be kosher under the rules, wouldn't it, Sheila?
Well, I suppose it would be. But I think I should put this out here because we will help. If you get a fine,
yes,
and you need help fighting it, and we've done it to some success already, please go to fightthefines.com. There's a form there that you can fill out to contact us. And if you'd like to help the people who have gotten a fine, fight the fine, because we're not paying these fines. We're going to fight the fines because we're challenging the law and we're challenging the authority of the municipal police forces who are enforcing these laws. I mean, the laws are changing so fast. The restrictions are fluid. How can anybody be expected to follow them? They don't make any sense. People are seemingly ticketed arbitrarily. Please go to fightthefines.com. You can donate there to help with our legal battles, and you can also submit your case if you have run afoul of the law because of these COVID regulations. And we have had some success, especially with Walter Matheson. His ticket was tossed because we raised the alarm bell. We made really an international case of a $300 ticket for Walter eating a muffin in a Tim Hortons parking lot alone in his car with his window rolled up. the police came and ticketed him for not complying with emergency measures. That's how ridiculous these things are. But we are effective in both getting the fines dropped, challenging the issue as a whole, but also sending a chill across law enforcement. They know now that somebody's watching and somebody's fighting, and maybe they'll be a little less eager with the ticket book.
That Walter Matheson case was total victory, because don't forget, we had that letter from that law firm, incompetent law firm with that misspelt letter.
The case had
basically
everything.
Ordering us to censor ourselves. So not only did we not bend the knee to the litigators there, but the charges were dropped. And Sheila, that's your victory. That was your story. So I want to, right now, you give yourself a big Barry Horowitz pat on the back. There you go.
It was really Walter's victory, because the fact that Walter recorded his interaction with the police. Everybody at home, please take this free advice to heart right now. When the police approached Walter, he started audio recording. Very savvy man. And I think that was the difference in that, because he exposed the poor behavior of the police officer involved. And because Walter did that, he really left the cops with no choice. I don't think the cop wanted that submitted before a judge. I can't imagine. So,
and you know what? And this is where we must say to our viewers and everybody else, Sheila, that if you see something going sideways, you know, I think it's a safe bet to say most people have a cell phone with camera capability. Take it out, get at least an audio recording, but video, of course, is the best. Because unfortunately, Sheila, we are increasingly living in a world where if it wasn't caught on tape, then it never really happened. You know, but when you have video and audio evidence, it is no longer a he said, she said thing. It's all in the video, and you are completely free while you're out in public to record that, including interactions with law enforcement, which is what Walter Matheson did. There was nothing illegal, immoral, unethical about what he did. And that, as Sheila said, was what brought early victory. Once, you know, the other side saw the preponderance of evidence, there was no way they wanted to pursue this losing cause. Anyways, I think we have more super chats, right?
Yeah, I just want to say that recording was so bad. And again, you can hear the full recording at fightthefines.com. That recording was so bad. The cop hired the worst lawyer in Hampton, New Brunswick to try to have that recording confiscated from me and turned over to the RCMP detachment in Hampton, New Brunswick. That's how wild that recording was. It was bad. Anyway.
And then that lawyer ran for the Provincial Liberal Party and got about 1,000 votes.
1,000 votes. Yeah. The loss was so richly deserved. I should get to the super chat. But I do want to, somebody asked us in a super chat last week, and I had terrible Skype problems, so I couldn't answer it. But somebody asked who the best jobber in wrestling was.
Yes.
And I just wanted to give my answer.
Okay.
I think you picked a good one with Mr. Sharp.
Yep.
But the best jobber in wrestling, as far as I'm concerned, was the Brooklyn Brawler, Steve Lombardi.
Yeah, do we still call him a jobber? Because what weren't they promoting him to a stage at one point briefly in his career where he was kind of a, what would you say is the opposite of a jobber? I guess an A-lister.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what so because the Brooklyn Brawler was top of mind too, but I thought, is he truly a career jobber?
I will say yes, thank you. I will say he's a career jobber because of his diversity of roles that he has played. He wasn't just the Brooklyn Brawler. He was Doink the Clown, for those of you who don't know. And he was also Kamala, not Kamala, the wrestler's manager. So he did it all. That's why I think he's the best
forgot about
jobber.
that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to get that off my chest because I even messaged Andrew. I'm like, Andrew, if you're reading the super chats, this is my answer.
Sheila, you would have been an incredible wrestler. You'd know how to work the mic. I know you're very athletic and fit. Wouldn't that be great? I would pay to see you wrestle, Sheila. I got to tell you.
I don't know. My daughter described me as a skeleton wearing a skin shirt the other day, so I don't know if I'm the best wrestler. Let's keep going. Oh, this is a great segue into our next clip. Liard Kintyre gives us $2. Any plans on collaborating with Schwa FM? Why don't we roll the clip we have of possibly the most censored news outlet in all of Canada that isn't us?
Actually, a media company in Canada that may be more censored than us and may be more hated than us by Trudeau, and just as beloved as us by the people. Now, the reason you might not know about it is because it's a French language radio station in Quebec City called Schwa FM or Radio X. They've been getting in trouble for 20 years. Sort of like me, I guess. Look at this CRTC ruling from back in 2004, officially shutting down the radio station like we were in the Soviet Union or something. Why? Let me quote. These findings were based, notably, on the Commission's analysis of 47 complaints it had received since Schwa FM was acquired by Genex in February 1997. These complaints concerned the broadcast of abusive comment, offensive on-air contests, personal attacks and harassment on a daily program aired by Schwa FM during peak morning hours. So you've got 500,000 listeners, but over the course of 7 years, 47 little snitches didn't like it, but instead of ignoring it, switching the channel, or, I don't know, calling into the talk shows to argue with the host online, which is half the fun, I don't know, setting up your own radio station, 47 losers over 7 years went to the government, the CRTC regulator, and asked them to ban the biggest radio station in Quebec City. And the government said, sure, we'll shut it down. Yeah. So when word got out that the government was going to shut down the station, the city was outraged. Look at this. The commission received 9,468 interventions concerning Schwa FM's license renewal application. 9,417 were in favor of the application, 38 were opposed, and 13 were comments. What's that, like 99% in support of the station? Anyways, the CRTC goes on for 37 pages debating, analyzing what the radio host said over 7 years, and concluded by saying that, yeah, they're going to shut down the radio station, China style, Soviet style, Iran style. You know what? 8 days after that ruling, 50,000 citizens marched through the streets of Quebec City, the largest protest in that town since the 1960s. They also had a massive protest on Parliament Hill, too. Not quite as large. That's a 4.5-hour drive away from Quebec City, but nearly 10,000 people showed up to defend a radio station. Imagine 50,000 people marching in Quebec City. So, of course, the cowards at the CRTC backed down. And far from killing Schwa FM, it propelled them to new heights. And in fact, one of the radio hosts, Andre Arthur, he was propelled into Parliament. He was literally elected as a local MP over the whole censorship scandal. He declared his candidacy just 3 weeks before the vote. He spent less than $1,000 campaigning, and he crushed all the other parties. That's how outraged people in Quebec City were about Ottawa's censorship. So do you see what I mean about Schwa FM? They're sort of like us, always fighting for freedom, always tweaking the powers that be. They mock Justin Trudeau. Trudeau hates them because he can't control them. I mean, of course, the CRTC could always try to shut them down again, but how did that work out last time? Schwa FM fights hard. They're beloved by their people. But because it's all in French, because the rest of the media hate them, we don't hear about them in the rest of Canada, here in English Canada. Which brings me to today's story. Look at this. La ville de Québec cesse toute publicité à Radio X. How's my French? Terrible, right? Sorry. That means in English, the city of Quebec ceases all advertising on Radio X. That's Schwa FM. Now, the story's in French, of course, in the left-wing La Presse. I'm not going to punish you by trying to read any more French at you, sorry. So I'm going to put it through the Google Translate machine, and I'm going to read the translation, so forgive the choppy language, that's just Google. So here's what this La Presse article says en anglais. The city of Quebec is putting an end to its advertising purchases on Schwa Radio X, considering that the station, quote, constitutes a danger to public health. Just stop here for a moment. So ideas, debating, different points of view, that's now a danger to public health. That's a new one. They tried to take Schwa FM off the radio because they were rude, 15 years ago. Quebecers laughed at that. So now they're a danger to your health, like you can get sick from listening to them or something. That's what they said in the Soviet Union too. If you disagreed with the state, you were mentally ill. You had to go to an insane asylum because only crazy people wouldn't love Stalin. I'll read some more.
Oh my goodness. Isn't that amazing, Sheila? This radio station avoided a regulatory death sentence because the CRTC bent the knee given the public outrage, and now they're trying to get them off the air via an economic death sentence. This is absolutely shameful.
This is one of the reasons why we are not on the regular airwaves, is because we can skirt some of these regulatory attacks. But that's also the reason why the federal government is trying to now regulate the internet and catch all the internet broadcasters like us in the big net now, to expand the authority they have over the broadcast airwaves to capture the internet. So even if Schwa FM just moved online and was, no longer a terrestrial radio station, the federal government would eventually come after them too, in the same way that they're trying to come after everybody else right now. It's really appalling to see these attacks on this independent radio station. If you don't like them, turn them off.
Yes.
If they were creating a product that nobody wanted to watch, or that nobody wanted to listen to, nobody would listen to it. It would just die a natural death. They don't need all this artificial euthanization.
Oh, and Sheila, if the government gets that kind of internet regulatory power, they're coming after us, because I can tell you this, our employer, our boss, Ezra Levent, myself, Mr. Producer, several other people at Rebel, we used to be at the Sun News Network. We are refugees from the Sun News Network. Why did Sun News go off the air? Well, we applied for a license, and I saw our application. I thought it was rock solid. The ostensible policy reason for the CRTC is to promote Canadian content. Okay, well, Sun News, our owners were a Quebec company, Quebecor. Our main studio was in Toronto. We had bureaus all across the country. We employed, I think, around 200 Canadians, telling stories about Canadians in Canada. You couldn't get any more Canadian than if I were to tattoo a maple leaf on my butt. And believe me, nobody wants to see that. In any event, we were asking for a license that other stations had, Sheila, where like about a third of their content were old American sitcoms being rerun.
Yeah.
And they denied us. And so you're asking me, folks, why did they deny you, Dave? Oh, you don't know? They don't have to give a reason. They just deny you. It's a political animal. They didn't like our politics, and that's why Sun News ceased to be. It was a disgrace, and don't for a second think that these people who are gunning for this radio station in Quebec would also come after us. We're not part of the mainstream media groupthink that is so adored by our politicians these days. I think we have some more super chats there, Sheila.
Yeah, we definitely do. But it's funny that they use, we want to protect the diversity of the Canadian media landscape, so we have to dump a bunch of cash into these failing media companies. And then the companies that just want to be left alone to actually present a diversity of views, as in conservative or free thought or whatever, they get attacked in the regulatory process. We don't want money. We just want to be left alone. Please leave us alone.
Yeah.
Let our viewers decide if we live on another day. Let's get to these super chats because we have 5 minutes left in the show and a bunch of super chats. Troy S gives us $5. Woohoo! YouTube's greatest tag team ever created on the air. Oh, thank you. Any new and exciting stories the two of you are working on that you can tease us with? I have an access to information story about the Canadian Border Agency that is, I think, pretty interesting. David, what about you?
I have two things that are so super top secret, and we have to get it lawyered first. So I'm not even going to tease it, folks. But if these two capers come to fruition, it's going to be beautiful.
I think that's a good enough tease. Alan Elliott gives us $5. Good morning. I was wondering if you guys will be following the Firearms Petition if it ends up being read in Parliament. Thanks. Have a great day. I think if that latest Firearms Petition, that was the one sponsored by Michelle Rempel, it's got 250,000 signatures on it. The largest e-petition in Canadian history. It just finished up at the beginning of September. Usually it takes a couple months before these things get tabled in Parliament, but I'll definitely be covering it. So the two largest e-petitions in Canadian history, both sponsored by Alberta Conservatives, both firearms petitions, but yet Justin Trudeau is proceeding with his increased firearms regulations. He's not even remotely interested in listening to the people. Lil Zebra gives us $5. Sheila Alberta Gal, yes I am. Is it the plaid or the FUBAR style accent that I have that I can't seem to get rid of? Martin Sable gives us $6.99. Doug should do us and PC a favor and join the Liberals officially. Yeah, if you're the Liberals in Ontario, it's pretty good to be you because Doug Ford is the premier, but he's acting like a Liberal. So I mean, and any of the political consequences, they're not going to fall on the Liberals. They're going to fall on the PCs. Well,
to quote the late, great Fred Willard, Sheila, what happened?
Yeah, exactly. Unjust Untrudeau gives us $5. Quebec now has police with telewarrants. They can enter your home to enforce lockdown orders, according to fake CTV. Ezra needs this on his show. We just talked about it. Yeah. Lisa Proust gives us $5. There aren't enough words to express how much I love you both, Sheila and David. Oh, thank you very much, Lisa. I love that you are angry. I love that you are real. I do get angry when I talk about China because they're currently committing a genocide on millions of Uyghurs right now as we speak. And when you see articles in the Toronto Star saying, why does Erin O'Toole keep talking about China? Like they lament. I think it was Alex Boudelier wrote an article lamenting why Erin O'Toole mentioned China in his inaugural speech in Parliament as the leader of the Conservative Party. And I thought, what the heck is wrong with you? Of course he mentioned China.
Do Toronto Star reporters and CBC reporters, do they even live in the same dimension the rest of us are living in, Sheila?
No, they are in the twilight zone. Dylan Smith, 279. Everyone call your MPP and complain. Yes. Travis Coulson, 279. Sheila, stats and facts, gun read. I try to have the facts. Newfie Man, 709, $5. COVID is a joke. Justin Trudeau's wife had it and survived. Erin O'Toole had it and is doing okay, but nobody puts it together. Rebel should ask him. I don't know if Erin O'Toole had it. He isolated, but his wife, I see that she tweeted the other day that she's okay now. Vito Anthony D, $5. $5 to tell Doug Ford, I resent having endorsed you. You campaigned as a conservative, but you governed like a leftist liberal dictator. You're fired.
You know what, Sheila? That's a very profound super chat, and I'll tell you why. From late April onward, I think I only missed 3 protests, but from late April to now we're into October, I've been covering the protests on Queen's Park by so-called Yahoo Nation, a term they embrace. They were called a bunch of Yahoos by the Premier. Do you know, almost 100%, I think only one exception, whenever I speak to these people off or on camera, by the way, who did you vote for in 2018? Almost 100% voted Doug Ford PC candidates. And he has turned his wrath and his ire on them while sucking up to the mean girls in the media party. And you know what? Once again, he'll be surprised whenever the next election comes, there's hints of an early election here, Sheila, how those mean girls turn on him like a rabid pack of wolverines. It is just beyond words that you would skewer your own base, that you would come up with a slur for the people who voted for you in good conscience. It's amazing, after barely 2 years of time passing, what's happened to Doug Ford, and it's kind of sad.
And for what? To please the mean girls who made his, in the mainstream media, who made his brother's life a living hell right down to his final day?
Yeah.
Like, goodness gracious, that's awful. And by the way, those people out there protesting in Queen's Park, they are Toronto area conservatives. Yeah. They're like gold. You have to cherish them and cultivate them and create an army that go out and change hearts and minds. You don't alienate them.
Great point.
Yes, Justin, I know. Oh, it's 1 o'clock. Oh gosh, 1 o'clock. Sorry, I didn't mean. Sorry. Yes, you're right. That's why you're the producer. Viking and Spain, $2. Forget 1984. We are on track for July 14th, 1789. Muzzle Flash gives us $5. Australian farmers are plowing their crops into the ground. Irish cattle farmers are ordered to slaughter their herds. But why? I hadn't heard about either one of those. No. And I try to keep my ear to the ground about all things agricultural. Terrian gives us $5. Hypothetically, if high school kids were to rally and strike against the mask mandates in their schools, would they all be suspended? Hypothetically, probably.
Yes.
Wayne McLaughlin, $5, no super chat. Linda McDonald, $20, no super chat. Very generous. Bernard Hutchison, $6.99. Trudopia is here, and nothing short of mass civil disobedience is going to change that. McKenna is eating dogs, bribing cops, and promoting cruelty to dogs. We talked about that on, I think it was Tuesday's show. Yeah. Trudeau S. Or sorry, I'm very sorry, Troy. I'm very sorry. It's Troy S. I'm sorry that I called you Trudeau. I'm very sorry. Troy S. gives us $5. Seems you all skipped over my super chat again. Oh well, still love Rebel and the best tag team ever created. Did I skip over that? Justin, you'll let me know. Amazon, $25. Unable to send a super chat when I try to pass on a link to something important. Oh, wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Matt B, $300, $75. Holy moly. Good afternoon, Mr. Menzies and Sheila. Thank you for all your hard work and fighting for the truth. Much love from Kingston, Ontario. Kingston, Ontario, home of John A. Macdonald, right?
And the place where I took a bottle off my head when a bunch of vandals were trying to tear down the statue of John A. Macdonald, but none of them, they all had gender studies degrees. No one had an engineering degree, so they had to throw eggs at it first. But I would not base my opinion of Kingston, Ontario with those group of losers. The people I've met in Kingston have been fantastic, including the police officers that followed up on that case. So way to go, Kingston.
You're telling me a bunch of social justice warriors didn't have practical degrees in science that would render them employable? This is outrageous, David. Derek G gives us $10. Still very generous. But I'm breezing through these super chats and losing the ability to read. Schwa Radio X is the only right-leaning mainstream media in Quebec, and probably the reason why Quebec City area and most of its South Shore usually vote Conservative at federal elections. That very well could be true, and that's another reason why they're going to be under attack going forward and have been in the past from these censors.
I wish we had an English radio schwa in this market, Sheila. The over-the-air radio stations in Toronto right now, to use the old Dick Beddoes phrase, if some of those folks don't get off the air soon, I'm going to stop breathing it. It is nothing but liberal wokeness and anti-Trump derangement syndrome. And worst of all, it's boring. Boring.
Yeah, I can get my traffic on an app on my phone. I know what's happening on Waze, and I'm fine, so I don't need to listen to the radio. I get my weather off my watch, and I can listen to whatever I want on satellite radio.
I'm a subscriber as well. Thank goodness for satellite radio.
Thank you, Patriot. Not sponsored, but open to a sponsorship. I think we've got... Okay, I did read the other one, Troy. If I didn't, I'll be sure to read it when I'm back on Tuesday. Dan Dunker gives us £5. Mask madness needs to stop. I'm glad I don't live in Canada. And that's it. We're almost 5 minutes past the hour, and we're finally all caught up.
Well, we went into overtime, and we didn't even get a chance to talk about justice for Jeremia. Kian's update on that fantastic, hardworking farm lad in Alberta. You got to check out that video, folks. It'll make your blood boil, but somewhat of a happy ending, I must say. So on the behalf of Mr. Producer and Sheila, the She-Devil Gun Reid, and myself, David Menzies, we will see you back here next Tuesday. In the meantime, have a great weekend and stay sane.